better way than just getting tossed into the fire, so I like it like that, I guess.
They left their enforcer completely unprotected. No safety net, no backup plan, no guarantees. And somehow, it worked out perfectly. The Indiana Fever just survived the most nerve-wracking 48 hours of their offseason, the 2026 WNBA Expansion Draft, and walked away with something that should genuinely terrify every other team in this league.
Bonner, the crossover, snakes inside for the finish of the foul.
We'll expect the unexpected, but let's get to it, because it's the moment that you all have been waiting for.
But before we get into why this might be the single greatest roster management play in recent Fever history, let us be honest about one thing up front. 2 players are gone. The pressure on this franchise has never been higher, and Caitlin Clark has already told the whole world exactly what she thinks is about to happen. If you're a Fever fan, a Caitlin Clark supporter, or just someone who loves watching elite teams build championship rosters in real time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. What the Fever front office just pulled off deserves a full, detailed breakdown, and that is exactly what we're going to give you today. The Fever entered expansion draft day with one nightmare scenario looming above everything else: losing Sophie Cunningham. She was left completely unprotected. She was sitting right there on the board for the Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo to take. And yet, here she is, still in Indianapolis, still a Fever, still the locker room personality and defensive enforcer that everyone in that building depends on. We're going to walk through exactly why that happened, what it means for the 2026 championship chase, and why losing Chloe Bibby and Kristy Wallace may actually help this team in ways that are not immediately obvious.
So yeah, we shouldn't have even been there, but I thought, Kelsey got a look at it.
And then Woods swats it away. Bibby running up ahead. Easy as you like.
Prepared to give them that and whatever they need. So yeah, I did that this year.
Let's start at the very beginning with the math problem that set everything in motion. Before the expansion draft even arrived, the Fever front office was staring at one of the trickiest roster decisions they have faced since rebuilding this franchise around Caitlin Clark. The rules are simple but brutal. Each existing WNBA team could only protect 5 players from the expansion pool. 5 names. That is it. Portland and Toronto could then select any unprotected player they wanted within specific limits to build out their inaugural rosters. For the Fever, 5 protection slots meant 5 decisions that would define the entire shape of their team heading into what could be their best shot at a championship in franchise history. For those 5 spots were never in question. Caitlin Clark is untouchable. The face of the franchise, the engine of everything the Fever do offensively, and one of the most important players in the entire history of women's basketball at this point in time.
Seconds left. Clark fires. You bet!
Aaliyah Boston is the defensive anchor and front court cornerstone, a player who makes every single person around her better with her basketball IQ and her ability to protect the paint. Kelsey Mitchell is Clark's backcourt partner and one of the most dangerous attacking guards in the league. Lexi Hull has carved out a role as a reliable perimeter defender and shooter who gives this team balance and length on the wing. Those 4 were locked in from the moment the protection rules were announced. That left one spot, one single protection slot, and the debate about who should fill it was genuinely stressful for everyone paying close attention. The competition came down to 2 very different players with 2 very different profiles. On one side, you had Sophie Cunningham, the veteran enforcer, the physical presence on defense, the emotional glue of the locker room, the player who showed clear on-court chemistry with Clark and Mitchell during her time in Indianapolis.
One to shoot, Cunningham.
On the other side, you had Michaela Timpson, the young, high-upside rookie with a physical skill set that scouts have been buzzing about for months and a developmental ceiling that very few players at her stage of the game possess. The conventional move is to protect the proven veteran. You know what Cunningham brings. You know her value in terms of toughness, communication, and the kind of presence that championship teams absolutely need off the bench. But the Fever front office went a completely different direction. They left Sophie Cunningham unprotected and bet everything on a very specific wrinkle buried in the expansion draft rulebook, one that most casual fans never even knew existed. Here is how the rule works. during an expansion draft, a new franchise can only select a maximum of one unrestricted free agent from the entire available player pool. Just one. And if they take that free agent, they are immediately required to offer her a significant contract in order to prevent her from walking away to another team the moment the draft concludes. Sophie Cunningham is an unrestricted free agent. That means Portland or Toronto could only select her if they were willing to dedicate their one free agent pick and a supermax level salary to a veteran who had just suffered a torn MCL in her right knee back in August and was currently working her way through rehabilitation. Think about that from Portland's perspective. Think about it from Toronto's perspective. You're a brand new franchise. You have never played a single game. You're trying to build a foundation from scratch with limited resources and a roster that needs to be built across multiple positions. Are you going to spend your entire free agent allocation on a recovering veteran who will cost massive money before you have even run your first practice? The Fever front office read that situation correctly and decided neither expansion team would make that play. They were right on the money. Sophie Cunningham is still an Indiana Fever. Now, it is important to be fully clear about where Sophie's situation actually stands, because there is still a chapter of this story that has not completely finished writing itself yet. Cunningham suffered the MCL tear during a game against the Connecticut Sun in August 2025, ending her season early and sending her into the offseason as an unrestricted free agent working through the recovery process. Negotiations between her and the Fever officially opened on April 8th, with signings eligible to begin on April 11th. The expectation around the league is that she returns to Indianapolis. The chemistry is real, the fit is undeniable, and her profile playing alongside Clark gives her a visibility and platform that very few other teams in this league can match.
Clark looking to push, cross-court pass. Bull, back to Clark, she will launch.
But nothing is signed yet, and that is the one storyline worth watching closely as the final pieces fall into place. While the Sophie situation continues to develop, the Kelsey Mitchell news landed like an absolute rocket. Mitchell has agreed to a one-year supermax deal worth $1.4 million to return to Indiana. Three-time WNBA All-Star. All-WNBA selection in 2025. One of only the first players in league history to agree to terms under the new supermax designation created by the recently signed collective bargaining agreement. Mitchell was the Fever's stated #1 priority, and General Manager Amber Cox went out and got her. Caitlin Clark said it directly in a recent NBC broadcast. Signing Kelsey Mitchell back was the absolute first item on the offseason agenda. Clark described her as her running mate in the backcourt. She's not someone who uses that kind of language loosely in public settings. When Clark says Mitchell makes it easy for her, that is about more than friendship. That is about how their games connect in ways that create advantages neither of them could manufacture individually. Mitchell's explosiveness attacking off the dribble, her finishing ability at the rim, her pull-up jumper, and her three-point range from the corners. All of those skills are amplified because Clark's gravity as a shooter creates the space for them to operate. And Clark's ability to see the whole floor and deliver the ball in stride means Mitchell gets the ball in the exact positions where she is most dangerous. It is a partnership that took time to develop and would have been devastating to lose. This backcourt is back together, and the rest of the league should be uncomfortable about that. Now let us be fully honest about what this expansion draft actually cost the Fever, because painting it as a complete victory without acknowledging the real losses would not be fair to the full picture. Chloe Bibby was selected 11th overall by the Portland Fire, and that stings. Bibby arrived midway through the 2025 season and made her presence felt almost immediately in ways that both the box score and the locker room energy reflected. She brought physicality, size, and a competitive edge to a frontcourt that needed all three. Coaches noticed. Teammates noticed. She was exactly the kind of selfless, hard-nosed role player that championship teams are built around. The player who does the grunt work so that the stars can shine. Her season ended with that knee injury before the postseason, which was genuinely heartbreaking given how much she had contributed to getting Indiana to that point. Now she goes to Portland as one of the foundational pieces of a brand new franchise. And for a player who has always had to prove herself and earn her opportunities, this could genuinely be the platform that defines the next chapter of her career. Kristy Wallace was taken 22nd overall by the Toronto Tempo. Wallace did not appear in a game for the Fever during the 2025 season. Her contract was suspended, but Toronto identified value in her veteran guard experience as a stabilizing voice and presence for what will be a roster filled with players who have very little experience playing together. From Indiana's perspective, the Wallace situation is almost entirely a salary cap story. Clearing her roster spot and her contract hold creates additional financial flexibility heading into the free agency period that just opened. In a cap environment where the margin between a championship team and a near miss can come down to one veteran signing, that cleared space matters more than the casual box score view of the move suggests. When you look at the full ledger, what was kept versus what was taken, the numbers tell a story that the Fever front office should be proud of. Portland and Toronto came into this draft with the ability to genuinely damage a contender. They walked away with a recovering forward and a guard who did not play last season. Indianapolis kept their franchise player, their second best player, their starting backcourt partner, their best two-way wing, their veteran enforcer, and their most intriguing young prospect. By any objective measurement, the Fever won the expansion draft in a way that very few top teams in recent WNBA history have managed. The chess game did not stop at the Fever's table, though. Across the rest of the draft, other franchises lost players that changed the landscape of the entire league. Toronto's selection of Marina Mabrey is worth highlighting specifically. Mabrey is one of the more electric offensive players in the league, a guard who can get scorching hot from three-point range and completely flip the momentum of a game in minutes. Moving her to an expansion franchise limits her immediate impact in terms of competing for a title in 2026, but it also means she is no longer a weapon available to a competing contender. The ripple effects of expansion drafts never fully reveal themselves until the season actually starts. And with 14 teams now navigating rosters that include entirely new personnel, there are going to be surprises on both ends of the standings before the calendar flips to June. Speaking of where teams actually stand, let us talk numbers. As of the first week of April 2026, the betting odds have the Las Vegas Aces as the top championship favorites at plus 275. The Indiana Fever are right behind them at plus 350, placing them firmly in the elite tier of title contenders. The Minnesota Lynx, the New York Liberty, and the Atlanta Dream round out the competitive field. But the Fever's position has been strengthening with every piece of positive offseason news. And if Sophie Cunningham re-signs in the coming days, you should expect those odds to tighten further. Caitlin Clark has not been shy about stating her expectations. In a recent broadcast, she said the Fever are going to be the favorites to win it all. Not a contender. Not a team that has a chance. The favorite. That is a specific and deliberate choice of words from someone who understands the weight that comes with them. Clark is not someone who makes careless claims in public. When she says that, she has reasons for believing it, and the offseason moves back that confidence up in a way that is hard to dismiss. Now here is the element of this story that deserves way more attention than it has received amid all the expansion draft noise. While the entire WNBA world was obsessing over protection lists and cap holds and expansion picks, Caitlin Clark was on the other side of the world winning an international MVP award. The FIBA qualifying tournament for the 2026 Women's World Cup was held in March, and Team USA dominated from the opening tip. They went undefeated across all 5 games, winning the group and securing the top overall seed heading into the World Cup scheduled for later this year. Clark averaged 11.6 points per game on 52.9% shooting, led the entire tournament with 6.4 assists per contest, and knocked down 2 3-pointers per game. FIBA awarded her the tournament's most valuable player honor, making her the youngest player ever to receive that distinction at the international level in women's basketball. This is not a player coming back from injury fog, trying to find a rhythm. This is not a player working to rebuild confidence after a difficult season. This is Caitlin Clark arriving at Fever training camp, having just been the best player in a full international tournament. Sharp, hungry, healthy, and already operating at peak level. The other 13 teams in this league should be thinking carefully about what that means for May 9th and beyond. The Fever's final stretch of offseason work is now focused on 2 remaining pieces. The WNBA Draft on April 13th will give Indiana the chance to add at least one more player, most likely a frontcourt piece to address the void left by losing Bibby. The front office has shown throughout this entire offseason that they are not afraid to be aggressive and creative in how they build this roster. The same calculated approach that led them to leave Sophie unprotected is the same thinking they will bring to the draft board. Do not expect a passive, play it safe pick. Expect something deliberate. Then comes May 9th, and the season begins for real. There's something worth naming plainly here, because it is easy to get lost in the draft grades and the cap math and the individual roster moves. Championship teams are built on continuity. Not just talent, continuity. The ability to keep the right players together long enough that they develop a shared language, a shared trust, and a shared competitive identity that cannot be replicated quickly by adding new pieces. The teams that have sustained winning at the highest level in this sport all had it. And the Indiana Fever, by navigating the most disruptive roster event of their offseason without losing a single core player, now have that continuity heading into what everyone across the basketball world has circled as a defining season for the WNBA. 14 teams, 2 brand new franchises, a historic television deal bringing audiences to women's basketball that would have seemed impossible just 3 years ago. The sport has never been bigger. The competition has never been deeper. And right in the middle of all of it stands the Indiana Fever with their best player healthy and motivated, their backcourt locked in, their big four untouched, and a front office that just proved it can think 3 moves ahead when everyone else is reacting in the moment. The expansion draft was a test. They passed it without flinching. What comes next is the part that actually matters. The season itself, the games that count, the moments under pressure that define whether a team is truly built for a championship or just looks like one on paper. The Fever have given themselves every possible structural advantage heading into that challenge. Now the players have to go out and prove it. Right now, we want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Did the Fever's front office play this expansion draft perfectly, or was leaving Sophie Cunningham unprotected a gamble that could have gone very wrong? And with the draft arriving on April 13th, which frontcourt player do you want to see Indiana select to fill that gap left by Bibby? Get in those comments. We genuinely read them, and they shape the next breakdown we do. If you want to stay up to date on every Fever move between now and the May 9th season opener, every signing, every draft pick, every development as this roster takes its final shape, subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. This team is built for something special in 2026, and you're not going to want to miss a single moment of the ride.